In the rural countryside of France, hidden deep within the forests, stood an old mansion known as Château de Mourant. This mansion had become a common subject of whispers among the townsfolk. Although it had stood there for centuries, no one truly knew its story. The mansion's doors had not been opened since the night its owners mysteriously disappeared. According to rumors, horrific events had taken place within, and many people had vanished inside. Yet, none of these stories were ever proven. At that time, Henry Beaufort, a researcher and writer, decided to unravel the mystery of the mansion. Henry, a writer passionate about history, had brought to light many forgotten stories. However, the tales he heard about Château de Mourant intrigued him more than any other. Why a noble family had disappeared in this mansion, and why no one had ever returned, was a great enigma. Henry believed solving this case would mark the pinnacle of his career. Armed with only a few essential supplies and old plans of the mansion, he set off towards the forest. The area where the mansion was located was surrounded by dense trees, lost within the fog. The townspeople had tried to dissuade Henry from embarking on this adventure. In their view, those who entered the mansion never returned, but Henry dismissed these as mere folk tales. Upon arriving at the mansion, he was greeted by an eerie silence. There were no bird sounds or whispers of the wind, only the echo of his own footsteps among the old stone walls. The large doors of the mansion were covered in the dust of years. As Henry pushed open the heavy wooden door, a cold wave of air rushed out. The entrance hall was filled with grand chandeliers and ornate marble columns, but everything bore the marks of time. The stairs creaked as if they were following his steps. Though he felt alone, Henry couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him from every corner. As he began his investigation, the strange occurrences within the mansion began to reveal themselves one by one. There were writings on the old walls and shadows hiding behind corners. When Henry headed towards one of the back rooms of the mansion, he felt a chill. The room looked as though it hadn't been opened in years. Everything was in place, yet something was off. There were strange symbols and writings in ancient languages on the walls, symbols Henry had never seen before. They seemed to point to a spell or a curse. At that moment, the door slammed shut, startling Henry. His heart raced. The room suddenly plunged into darkness. Panicking, he pulled out his flashlight, but the light refused to come on. As his eyes scanned the thick darkness, he felt something approaching him. Deep breaths, whispers, and footsteps. Henry stepped back, only to encounter a cold hand on the wall. Instinctively, he turned around quickly, but no one was there. For a moment, he stood frozen, unsure of what to do. It was as if the mansion was pulling him in. This was no ordinary abandoned structure. It was under the control of some entity. Henry remembered the townsfolk's warnings, but it was too late now. There was no turning back. Somehow, he knew he had to delve deeper into the mansion. The answers lay there, but so did the danger. Henry found a narrow, dark corridor leading to the mansion's basement. The stairs smelled of damp and mold. Each step seemed to creak as though the wooden planks were decaying beneath his feet. When he reached the bottom, he found a sort of chapel. This place held the mansion's darkest secret. Around the stone altar in the center were symbols of an ancient cult. On the altar lay a journal. As Henry flipped through its pages, he learned of the terrible fate that had befallen the noble family. The noble family, while building the mansion, had made a pact with the cult, seeking power and immortality through a dark ritual. But the ritual had gone wrong, and the family was cursed. The screams echoing through the mansion's walls every night were part of this curse. The souls of the family were trapped in an endless cycle of suffering. When Henry faced this truth, he finally understood why the mansion had been abandoned. At that moment, the air in the basement grew heavy, and the whispers started again. It was as though something had noticed Henry's presence. A shadow emerged from the dark corners. Henry, in a panic, dropped the journal and tried to escape, but the mansion's doors had closed. The shadow moved closer, and the murmurs from the darkness grew louder. Henry realized he couldn't escape from the mansion. The mansion's curse had now become a part of him. As Henry's vision darkened, the voices buzzing in his mind pulled him into a deep void. But this wasn't the end of the story. In fact, the true horror was just beginning. When Henry realized he couldn't escape, he began writing about his experiences in that cursed journal. The journal was not just a story. It It was the final trace left by those the mansion had claimed. Excerpts from Henry's journal. Day 1. This mansion is quiet, but there is something behind the silence. I feel someone watching me with every step I take. I hear screams, but there is no sound, only echoes of fear. Day 2. Last night I saw a shadow in my sleep. The room was dark, but this shadow was moving within the darkness. Its eyes, those terrible eyes. I beg, someone get me out of here. Day 3. Everything feels like a loop. I keep reliving the same moments over and over. My eyes close, but my dreams are no different than when I'm awake. I can't escape even in my dreams. The walls are watching me. More pairs of eyes appear from every corner. Day 4. The symbols. The symbols in the basement are etched into my mind. I don't know what they mean, but I see them every night. It's as if they're controlling me. I must get out of here. Day 5. I tried to sleep. The voices are getting louder. Someone is calling my name, but I don't know who. I won't go through that door. If I do, there's no coming back. Day 6. I can't escape. I tried to go outside, but the doors are closed. Those shadows are watching me. The screams are growing louder. I'm trapped here. If someone finds this, stay away from here. Don't come. As the days went by, Henry's sentences grew shorter, more grim, and disjointed. Fear had completely seeped into his writings. Realizing he was trapped in an inescapable labyrinth, Henry made one last attempt to throw the journal outside. Day 7. The end. I'm throwing the journal out, but I can't get out. Henry's final effort was to squeeze the journal under the door. He himself was forever trapped in the mansion. Whoever found the journal would learn the terror of the curse. Years later, a man named Pierre Dupont, who had ventured through the forest near the mansion, had dared to visit the area despite the dark legend surrounding the Château de Mourant. Pierre was a history teacher who had settled in this rural part of France. Historical buildings and the secrets they held had always intrigued him. The villagers had warned him that the Château de Mourant was cursed, but Pierre did not believe in such myths. Driven by curiosity, he decided to explore the mansion's surroundings. As Pierre walked in front of the mansion's cold, stone walls, he noticed something on the ground. A dusty, old, and worn-out journal lay right in front of the mansion's large wooden door. He bent down and picked it up. The cover was frayed, and the pages were nearly falling apart. However, the writing inside was still legible. As Pierre read the entries, his face paled. The lines were filled with terrifying events that stretched his imagination. Although Pierre did not believe in supernatural phenomena, the more he read the pages, the more the curse of the mansion seemed to come alive in his mind. This journal could not have belonged to an ordinary person. Henry's horrifying memories revealed the dark secrets of the mansion. Pierre faced an escalating terror with every page he turned. Doors were closing, walls were speaking, and people were vanishing. All of this plunged Pierre into deep fear, yet the desire to uncover whether the curse was real or not drew him further into the mansion. Upon returning to his village, Pierre wanted to investigate the reality of the journal's contents. He inquired among the villagers about Henry. They told him that several months earlier, a man had gone to the mansion but never returned. Hearing Henry's name made Pierre shiver. The villagers had knowledge of someone who had told the entire village about Henry's fate and the mansion's curse. To better understand the situation, Pierre began reading the journal aloud to the villagers. As he read each page out loud, the fear and concern on the villagers' faces confirmed the truth of the journal's writings. The terrifying details within the journal matched the widespread rumors in the village. Pierre realized just how horrifying the journal truly was. Since then, the horrifying story of the curse of Château de Mourant became widely known in the village. The villagers continued to share the story of the journal's terror as part of the mansion's curse. The journal Pierre found was considered a significant document in the village's history and the reality of the curse. However, no one in the village dared to open the mansion's doors again. Château de Mourant continued to bear its curse in silence and darkness,